Welcome back to the Paranormal Highway. Tonight we're heading way northeast, to the edge of the map, where the forests don't end, the coastline feels ancient, and the fog shows up like it has a plan. This is Maine. Maine became the 23rd state on March 15, 1820, splitting from Massachusetts during the Missouri Compromise. But long before paperwork, this land belonged to indigenous peoples, early French and English settlers, and generations of sailors who learned the hard way that the Atlantic Ocean here does not play nice. The capital, Augusta, sits safely inland, chosen specifically to avoid coastal attacks and pirate trouble. Today, Maine has about 1.38 million people, making it one of the least densely populated states in the country. And when things get strange, fewer people around tends to matter. Maine was built on shipbuilding, fishing, timber, paper mills, and granite quarries. When those industries faded, they left behind abandoned towns, empty mills, and places where locals insist the work never really stopped, it just got quieter. Culturally, Maine looms large thanks to one name, Stephen King. He didn't invent Maine's darkness, he simply listened. The isolation, the tight-knit towns, the feeling that the woods know more than you do, that part was already here. And then there are the oddities. Maine has more coastline than California, if you count all the islands and inlets. It has vast forests where people still disappear. There are reports of phantom ships offshore, strange lights over the water, ghostly lumber camps, cryptids near remote lakes, time-slip stories, and an astonishing number of old cemeteries tucked into the trees. It's a place where weather changes instantly, radio signals act funny, and when something unexplainable happens, locals just shrug and say, "Yeah, that's Maine." From haunted islands and cursed forts to missing hunters and things glimpsed between the trees, we're officially riding the Maine Paranormal Highway, and the road ahead gets weird fast.
The truth is out there, and it begins with you. Welcome to the Cosmic Fold, where we talk high strangeness. Call us at 928-288-2942. That's 928-288-2942. Or join us by video. If you're at a computer, just look for the link in the chat. Buckle up, sit around our virtual campfire, and let's get started.
In the winter of 1799, in a small coastal town in Maine, a house began to speak. Not loudly, not clearly. At first, it was just noise, faint knocking from beneath the floorboards, like a conversation overheard through walls. Words you couldn't quite make out, sounds you couldn't place. The house belonged to Captain Abner Blaisdell, a Revolutionary War veteran. A man who had seen violence, fear, and death, and who was not easily rattled. But whatever was coming from his cellar wasn't behaving like a rat, or a draft, or a settling beam. And then, on January 2nd, 1800, something changed. The knocking stopped being random. When Captain Blaisdell spoke into the darkness, asking if anyone was there,
"Who's there?
the sounds responded.
What do you want?"
Not with more knocking, but with words. Clear, deliberate, direct. Standing at the top of the cellar stairs, Blaisdell demanded to know who, or what, was speaking from beneath his home. The answer came back immediately. "I am the dead wife of Captain George Butler, born Nellie Hooper." Nellie Butler had died 3 years earlier, 21 years old, childbirth. Her baby died shortly after. Her widowed husband, George Butler, still lived nearby. What followed was not a single encounter. It was months of repeated appearances. Voices that moved through the cellar, knocks that summoned witnesses, a presence that answered personal questions, Details that, according to testimony, only Nellie herself could have known. More than 100 people would later claim to have seen or heard it. They described a glowing light, an orb that expanded, a human-shaped figure that could be approached, even touched, though hands passed straight through it. And then, the ghost made a demand. It claimed it had returned to arrange a marriage between its widower, George Butler, and a 15-year-old girl named Lydia Blaisdell. That alone fractured the town. Some believed the spirit was benevolent. Some believed it was demonic. Others believed the family was orchestrating an elaborate hoax. Lydia herself was accused of witchcraft, of possession. Her family was ostracized, divided, pulled apart by rumor and fear. Then came the prophecy. After George and Lydia were married in May of 1800, the ghost returned with a warning. Lydia would bear one child and die shortly after. 10 months later, she did. By August, the hauntings escalated. The apparition spoke publicly, sang hymns, challenged skeptics. At one point, 48 people followed it from the Blaisdell house down the road into open land so it could prove it was not confined to a cellar. Witnesses said the figure appeared one last time, standing in a field, before vanishing forever. And then, nothing. For more than 2 centuries, the story lingered in fragments, retold, misplaced, even relocated on maps and in books, until modern journalists and historians went back to the original records. They tracked down the 1826 eyewitness testimonies, verified names, found gravestones, confirmed locations, and corrected a long-standing error. This did not happen in Machiasport. It happened here, in Sullivan, Maine. What they did not do was solve it, because the question still remains. Was this America's first documented ghost? A mass hallucination shaped by grief and belief? A poltergeist centered on a teenage girl? A hoax that spiraled out of control? Or something else entirely? Stand in Sullivan today, and you'll find quiet roads, trees, open land, fields that look like any other. And that's where this stretch of the Paranormal Highway begins.
Hey!
Okay, so, all right, the first thing is the rat. If you think that there is an infestation of rats in your house, is a good time to GTFO.
Yes.
The second thing, 15?
Huh?
Well, she was 15, as he's saying.
15.
15?
Yeah, and that's why the village got. But what's so interesting about this one is that these historians just recently have really gone back into this, and they found all these witness statements and stuff that there really was 48 people that followed this thing out into a field, and they were able to kind of stitch the whole thing together based on old written testimonies. And that might be the very first documented ghost story in the United States of America, which I think is kind of cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
It is.
But yeah, if the old Revolutionary War guy, he's probably like, oh, rats, I've seen worse. You know?
I know, right? Because, rats.
So how's your shoulder, Al? We postponed from last week because you hurt yourself.
I hurt my shoulder, and as the story goes, you take pain relief medication. I have a bunch of ibuprofen around, and I grabbed the wrong bottle of ibuprofen. I grabbed 800 milligrams of ibuprofen PM.
Night.
And
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
that is all she wrote. Oh my God! I got up. At
How
10
long
o'clock.
did how long
7
did that
hours.
knock you out for? How many hours?
That's about 7 hours. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm still jet lagged.
How's your shoulder now? Are you better?
I re-injured it actually earlier. We got a blown out tire, and I know how to change a tire. I have all the tools I need, except one very important one, and this is why I have stated publicly many times: if you have a wheel lock on your rims, you need to be publicly flogged, covered in tar, and feathered. Because I had to now go to Amazon. I have every tool in the world. I have a whole shop. I
You
don't
didn't have the key.
Well, the key's been gone. Everyone loses the key.
Right.
I've had so many. I probably had over 100 vehicles in my life. Every single one of them that I bought with the wheel lock, the person I bought it from had lost the wheel lock. So I had to buy this kit from Amazon, which will be here tomorrow sometime, and 4 lug nuts because there's lug nuts on the other 3 wheels. So tomorrow, I thought I was going to do it, but it's going to be 40 degrees out tomorrow. So probably Monday, I will have to break off 4 lug nuts and then put the spare on and go get a tire. And then I have to replace my positive battery terminal because it
Oh,
broke.
geez.
So
Fun.
but the jack.
So you
my
have
son-
Amazon deliveries
What? I have
on
Amazon deliver
Sundays?
everything.
Yeah, they deliver on
Yeah.
Sunday for some
From-
stuff.
Yeah, sometimes 3 o'clock in the morning on
Did I-
Sunday. I drove for Amazon for years. I was the delivery guy for them for extra money. But yeah, so now I gotta do that, and the battery terminal broke in half on me yesterday when I was working on the car. Had to run a wire through the firewall to bring power to my radios, and I went to loosen the positive battery terminal, and it just cracked in half. So I got it on there with a
Oh,
clamp.
geez.
So tomorrow, I guess I'm going to the auto parts store. I figured, hell, I might as well do the brakes while I'm at it. So, But yeah.
Well,
I don't know if I'm-
get some Ben Gay or Tiger Balm. Is
Oh,
that what it's called?
Gay has
Get on
got-
your shoulder.
They has got this roll-on.
So my laptop's at 80s.
Okay. They has got this roll-on. I don't know what it is. It's like an icy hot roll-on.
Uh-huh.
So I use that.
Yeah.
Okay, it works all right. Yeah.
Geez, well, I'm
Anyway.
glad you're better. Bove
Yeah,
is
I'm all right.
fighting
I'll
off
be
the
all right.
flu or cold or something tonight, so it's like that fun time of year, I tell ya.
Yeah.
It's all right.
Well, here,
You know what I got to say to the flu?
what? F you?
There you go. There's the finger.
The Maine Paranormal Highway, the haunted stretch. Part of the book.
Oh boy.
Oh, how about an uncomfortable past? Malaga
Yep.
Island. That's a cool little picture. Family. Wow, I don't know what that's a cool picture. Though.
Yeah, I can't quite see what it says either. It
can't
was
see
in the
it.
public domain, so it was like, okay.
Well, Malaga Island looks peaceful now. Got spruce trees, lobster traps, quiet water. But that calm is doing a lot of heavy lifting. Back in the mid-1800s, about 40 people lived here year-round, scraping out a fishing life, much like any other Maine coastal village. The difference was who they were. A mixed-race, poor community that made politicians, newspapers, and aspiring resort developers deeply uncomfortable. Of course, why not? By the early 1900s, racist headlines, moral panic, and the fashionable pseudoscience of eugenics branded the islanders as degenerate, just as Maine was polishing its image as vacation land. The state stepped in, promised protection, then promptly did the opposite, because nothing says a good governance like a bait and switch followed by a bonfire, right? In 1912, residents were forced out, their homes burned or floated away in search of towns that refused them, and several were institutionalized after biased intelligence tests designed to fail the poor. Even the dead weren't spared. Graves were exhumed, bodies combined into mass caskets, and reburied in unmarked plots, with at least one child's body reportedly lost to the river along the way. The island was sold to a political insider for resort dreams that never happened, leaving Malaga empty, but not erased.
Isn't that horrible? So that stuff doesn't happen just in the South. It's like,
Oh, I know. It's everywhere.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there were some little ghost stories, but I thought, well, it's more important to just talk about the story of this community. You know, so
Yeah.
many of these have been lost to this kind of
Yeah, absolutely.
hate
Absolutely.
and racism. So, but now we'll get into our other stuff.
Now, our other stuff.
Not really a ghost story, but an interesting little news story.
The Mystery of Mrs. Mary. Reminds me of a song from the 90s by Run DMC called Mary Mary.
I like that. I like that band. I listen to them sometimes at night when I need to get stuff done and I'm tired. It's like, okay, that's just the way it is.
Very energetic. So, on an otherwise quiet October weekend in 2021, that's not even 5 years ago, the Westbrook Police Department found themselves dealing not with speeding tickets or loose dogs, but with a problem straight out of a polite New England ghost story. A legitimate 19th century gravestone lying in the middle of a road. The stone turned up on Methodist Road, rural, wooded, and not at all sort of a place you would expect to meet the deceased out on a stroll. And hang on a second, I gotta shut my door. Give me 2 seconds. There we go. Dave's on a work call, so. All right, anyway, I'm sorry. The headstone belonged to Miss Mary, wife of David Pratt, who died on June 21st, 1840, at the age of 59, making the stone about 180 years old at the time of its unexpected road trip. Investigators traced a possible orange to the Old Baptist Cemetery in Yarmouth, roughly about a half hour away, raising questions nobody could immediately answer. How did Mrs. Mary travel that far, and why did she stop in the road? Police openly acknowledged the creep factor while doing what they do best, trying to return lost property, even when that property is carved in slate and predates indoor plumbing. Whether the stone was moved by a misguided Halloween decorator, a careless thief, or sheer historical mischief remains unsolved. But what is certain is that somewhere in southern Maine, a woman who died in 1840 briefly re-entered modern life by traffic lane before politely waiting for authorities to put her back where she belongs.
Damn.
How heavy are those things? Because it probably was vandals with Halloween coming. Because I think it was October 2021 when this happened.
It depends on several things. I mean, how big it is, how thick it is, how tall it is, the material it's made of. Let me do a quick.
I mean, I'm surprised it didn't crack when it fell off the truck or whatever it was. You know, whatever they were doing.
Let's ask Google. How heavy is the average headstone? It says here.
Headstones vary greatly in weight. Flat markers typically weigh under 100 pounds, while larger
under 100, that's not much.
Common granite uprights usually weigh between 100 and 400 pounds, depending on their size.
Huh, okay. I mean, big ones. Yeah, so bad. Yeah, that's between 100 and 400 pounds. That had to have taken several people on a truck.
And that it didn't crack when it fell off. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
They never caught who done it, but kind of a crappy prank to pull, you know, to take that.
You know, desecrating a grave is never fun. Unless you're, Sam and Dean Winchester. And you just got to do what you got to do.
That's true.
Jonathan Buck's headstone. We're into headstones tonight. In Bucksport, Maine, Colonel Jonathan Buck founder of the town, has a grave that refuses to behave like normal granite. The legend
Great.
says Buck, I know, right? The legend says Buck once oversaw the execution, sometimes described as a burning, of a woman accused of witchcraft, and she repaid him with a final promise. Her leg would sign his tombstone forever. Sure enough, visitors point to a distinct leg or boot-shaped stain on his monument, often described as a stocking or a boot, and the story insists it reappears no matter how many times the stone is cleaned or even replaced. Then the historian walks in and politely clears their throat. There are no records of witch executions in Maine, and in America they were typically hanged, not burned, because hanging is so much better. Also, Buck
That's
died
right.
in 1795, but his monument was erected much later, around 1870. That's like 75 years, roughly 60 years after his death. So the curse arrived fashionably late. Obviously, I do not do math so well. The most grounded explanation is that the mark comes from natural oxidation or defects in the granite revealed by polishing, and yet the folklore sticks. The stain keeps doing its little performance, and Bucksport gets a landmark that's equal parts cemetery, curiosity, and community in-joke carved stone. And, you know, I would go along with that. The natural oxidation. I've seen that happen on marble. I've seen it happen on granite. And no matter what you do, even if you paint it over it, it's going to bleed through. It's just, you know. But the fact that this one was replaced.
Yeah, and then
still
it
came
comes again. Exactly. Well, I
know?
got a little video, a little family video on YouTube. That's I just like these people, so we get to see. I mean, I've seen other ones where people say they got cursed by being around this. You know, these guys aren't like that. They're just
Yeah.
cute. It's a nice little town.
It is. I was just thinking how pretty.
Obviously, you meant a family making a video, not a family video.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're at the monument for Colonel Buck. He sentenced a woman for being a witch, sentenced her to death. She cursed him, saying she would forever haunt him, even years after his death. Depending on the legend, some say she was hung, some say she was burned. Either way, there is an image of a woman's leg that has appeared on this monument for centuries. They have changed out the stone. They have scrubbed it. They have made multiple attempts to make this go away, yet it keeps coming back.
Despite the wind.
Right? I know. Buck. There it is.
All right, there's something else to notice about Colonel Buck's too, is that you'll see a heart on the top of it right there, sideways. Now, Colonel Buck and the witch supposedly had a child together in common that was born deformed. Later on, there's other parts of the legend that says she was pregnant prior to her either burning or hanging her, you know. So, yeah, so take it for what it is. They were an item.
Buck that.
I just thought that video was so cute.
It's funny because you said a family video there, and the next thing I see is nooses. I'm like, oh, I think it's a crap
Family made. Yes.
I'm an idiot. I got it.
Apparently they drive around and do all these different stories. But that wind, we thought it was windy out here. It's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like, wow. So that was that's a pretty famous site, actually,
Yeah.
in the
Oh, I imagine
paranormal
so.
world.
Right on the road.
Yeah.
Ooh, the old Loring Air Force Base. Ooh. At the former Loring Air Force Base in northern Maine, now part of the Aroostook National Wildlife Refuge, the scariest phrase isn't classified. It's sealed. Writers Jeff Bellinger and Ray Auger say a bunker called Building 260 was closed off decades ago, and when they visited the site in 2020 for their New England Legends podcast, they found only leftovers: a cement guard tower, scattered remains, and a story that refuses to stay buried. A former base security staffer told them he'd heard of an accident involving radiation exposure where victims died and were sealed inside the building. An account.
Isn't that horrible?
That's why they call it the Vampire House. Officially,
I didn't make that connection, to be honest with you, but that's what the account said. So it's like, okay,
I
but
know.
I didn't understand why it would be called a vampire house over that. But
radiation,
whatever.
They don't glow in the dark. Maybe I don't know. We'll have to do a podcast just on vampires. How about that?
There you go.
Officially, authorities later said high readings were radon, not monsters. Yeah, officials, authorities. Unofficially, rumors insist that something lived inside. The lore only intensified after reports that a team investigating the place before the base closed was exposed to high levels of radiation, triggering serious government attention. And that's the enduring punchline and the chill. Whether Building 260 held a tragedy, a misunderstanding, or a full-blown myth factory. Bellinger and Auger note that whatever happened, or didn't, has slipped beyond recovery, leaving a sealed door and an unsealed imagination.
And I bet people going through that wildlife refuge have no idea that thing is under there. You know, it's like...
Yeah.
But they're not going to admit to radiation. There's, you know...
Why would they? It's just radon. It's
yeah,
just radon.
Exactly.
Nothing to see here. Move along.
That's right. We have no liability whatsoever for this.
Exactly.
Ooh. The Kennebec Arsenal. Kennebec Arsenal sits on Arsenal Street, as it would, in Augusta, the capital, looking like a stern granite time capsule, and it's earned the reputation. Built between 1828 and 1838 after federal authorization in 1827, amid tensions with British Canada and border disputes tied to neighboring New Brunswick. It began life as a U.S. military ordnance complex, weapons, munitions, and the quiet confidence of thick stone walls. The Army ultimately abandoned the post in 1901, and by 1905 the property was transferred for use by Maine's state mental hospital. Why is it always a mental hospital? Folding the arsenal into an institution
exactly.
for Earth, right? Now, like most asylums of its era, carried a legacy of horrific treatment for children and adults. Then the paranormal reputation moves in. People report apparitions and odd sounds, which, given the site's layered history, feels less like spooky tourism, more like a building refusing to keep secrets. Recognition followed. It was added to the National Register of Historic Places in the year 2000, and it is also recognized as a National Historic Landmark, praised as one of the best preserved early U.S. military depots. Today, it's also described as threatened/endangered due to deterioration, proof that even stone fortresses can become fragile, especially when history stacks up inside them.
You know, some of these old buildings here, the architecture is very interesting. This one, we've got a video for it too, and it kind of goes more into the history rather than ghostly stuff, but it's just kind of cool to look at how they built it and everything.
When you look at, and I know a thing or two about construction. Stone is a very ubiquitous term. There is stone that will literally last tens of thousands of years after we're off this planet. There is stone that will last maybe 100 years, 200 years tops. And obviously, that stone is going to be a lot less expensive than something like marble, or granite or what have you. A lot of the older buildings were made with sandstone. So yeah, they deteriorate, and given the fact that everything built for the U.S. government comes from the lowest bidder,
Yeah. Yeah.
that probably would explain. And you know what? You can refurbish, restore, and renovate wood buildings. Man, ebony wood is so dense and so thick it will stand forever. Or the wood that was used for the pilings for Venice, right?
Yeah.
But you cheap stuff just don't last, and you can't
You know,
renovate sandstone.
this old building that I have, it's a sandstone,
Yeah,
but you know what started to go? It was the mortar in between the stone.
yes,
So that's what I've had to replace. But the stone
yeah.
itself is great.
But
I
how
mean,
old
it
is it?
was like 1901 or something. So
Okay, you
it's
got
over
another
100 years
or
old.
so. You got another
Yeah.
100 though.
Well, and it already withstood a big flood and all this other stuff.
Yeah,
And what's cool about it, it's like, you know, even if it's 100 degrees outside, I
yeah,
don't need air conditioning. It's like a big root cellar.
yeah.
So I
If
like
I
how they.
removed, if I removed that there, I would get Adobe.
Oh yeah, you need
I
to
would get
come
Adobe.
on out. I wish you would move out here, you and Day. Come on.
Oh, wouldn't that be great? They'd have to bring all those grandbabies, the ones that I want to kiss and
I know.
nibble and
God, they're so
Yeah.
precious.
squeeze and
They are
squish.
so precious, man. I love my little grandbabies. Let's talk about Fort Knox, Maine's version of Fort Knox. Fort Knox, perched on 124 acres above the Penobscot River in Prospect, is a rare haunted hotspot that never even got the courtesy of a battle. Built in 1844 and later listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1970, it is now a state historic site. Plus, depending on who you ask, a well-funded activity center for the unseen. This place has earned airtime on TV's Ghost Hunters, and the reports read like a roll call. Apparitions, electronic voice phenomena, unexplained noises, shadowy figures, disembodied voices, and the unnerving claim that people have been physically touched by something that refuses to show up for the camera. Local law even supplies a cast. There's Leopold Hagee, a former caretaker whose shadow allegedly patrols the fort, sometimes accompanied by the scent of cherry pipe tobacco. There's Elizabeth, described as a young girl who plays with toys left by the investigators and gives hugs. That's creepy. And then there's Mike, drop the hammer, Mike. A construction worker said to have died in an explosion after touching his cigar to gunpowder. Important safety tip right there. Throw in slamming doors, commands like shit. K2 meters lighting up, and suddenly the historic site feels like an understatement. And as an added bonus, we got a video.
Well, I'm not sure though. It's 8 minutes. Do you guys want to watch it? Mostly it's just of the building. We could just keep going. It's up to you guys.
I don't care. It's fine with
What do
me.
you say, Bove? Heads or tails?
Well, I'm interested. It sounds long, but I
Okay.
am interested in the content.
Okay, cool. Because it is kind of neat to show. So
Okay.
I just didn't know.
Cool.
Okay, so
There we
here
go.
we go.
Here we go.
Prospect, Maine is a lovely little town. Besides the fort, you'll also find an amazing view from the observatory tower attached to the Penobscot River Bridge. Settled in 1759, this community predates the state of Maine and even the United States. Let's check out one of the most unique structures you will ever find here in Maine. Hello, welcome back to Stranger Maine. I got a good one for you today. As you
Did
can
you
see
see
from
how
the
he
granite
beamed
castle
in?
behind me, I am in Prospect, Maine at the one and only Fort Knox. I wrote back and forth with some folks here and they were kind enough to give me permission to come up and film. So today I come with you to give you history. I've got some of the neat people that used to be here. And of course, the part I know you really enjoy, some ghost stories. So let's get right into it. So the primary job of Fort Knox was to keep the Penobscot River safe. And they did so with things like this, giant cannons. This whole structure was built with the idea that you could protect it from ships sailing in, which unfortunately happened during the War of 1812. The British had brought warships up and taken over a lot of the territory here, controlling the Penobscot River. With Bangor so close nearby, they took that over as well. And they raided towns and cities up and down the coast.
And they took a lot of control of the lumber facilities. Lumber was a vastly important thing in that time. It created ships. You used it to cook. You used it to build your home. Whatever you needed, it was a resource that you needed to have access to. And Maine has lots of lumber, or at that point Massachusetts, the frontier, if you will. So a number of these were put in place, or at least would have been, to take out any ships coming in the harbor, or up the river in this case. So I'm going to show you some more of the fort. So I'm standing here in the parade ground, which is the heart of this fort. I'm surrounded by a giant pentagon of granite, and these walls would have easily repelled the cannon fire of the cannons and ships of the time when it was built. Despite its size, and you can tell this is a really big area, there really weren't that many soldiers stationed here at any given time. There were a handful of points in its history where it would have had hundreds of soldiers here. When it was being constructed, there were a lot of people who would have been here working on the fort. But most of the time, a crew of 50 or less would have been here. Often those folks are used to help train others on how to use the cannons. And for good chunks, the fort was actually manned by one person at a time. We'll get more into that later. But this place was a fortress, a literal granite fortress during most of its tenure. Its giant cannons would have kept the Penobscot free of any enemy ships, but unfortunately it outlived its usefulness. The granite would have repelled those cannons, but by the time the late 1800s and the Civil War rolled around, those new munitions would have easily burst through this. And unfortunately, the fort's outlived itself in that respect. So I'm currently standing in some of the enlisted men's quarters. Now, believe it or not, the fort, despite the amount of time, 40 plus years worth of construction and planning and funds, was never actually finished per se. There were a lot of support buildings that were never done. There were plans, for example, to add a barracks so that all the troops would have had a place to sleep. Imagine the surprise of the Connecticut regiment that was stationed here during the Spanish-American War showing up to find there was no barracks. They ended up sleeping in tents farther up the hillside here. But from what I understand, these rooms would have been not terribly fun to sleep in anyway, because there's no heating source, there's no fireplace in any of these. The officer quarters up the way would have had fireplaces, but this room doesn't have one. This particular enlisted men's quarters is fairly lucky though, because it's a few steps down from the bakery. So I suppose you might have been cold, but at least you got fresh bread from time to time when you were here. So the War of 1812 proved that this area was actually vulnerable to ships coming up the Penobscot and taking over or raiding or any of the terrible things that happened during that conflict. In the 1840s, the US and Great Britain had some more tension, and the folks of Prospect were like, hey, we need to get something here to protect our interest. So petitions were made to the government, and they appropriated funds to create a fort here. Now, as you can tell from the massive amount of granite surrounding this place, that stuff does not appear on its own overnight. So this took quite a while for this project to get underway. Required a lot of engineers doing a lot of work. You had stone cutters, basic laborers, people that fell trees. This area was not devoid of trees. Around 1870s is when we got the version that we kind of recognize today. There were some parts that never got finished, much like the barracks and some of the other things like hospitals. Those never unfortunately got done. But during that time, no actual shots were fired in hostility here at the fort. I was told a story about how some of the cannons were demonstrated to some of the British folks who were visiting as a kind of like, hey, try it. This is what we've got coming for you. And it did its job. They were not intent to come in, especially during the Civil War when they were sort of aligning with the South, where this could have been potentially an issue if they decided to attack. But knowing the defensive capabilities probably helped a bit deter them from that action. Now, because this wasn't staffed fully, for long periods of time, there was actually only maybe one person stationed here. There are 3 caretakers who went solo, but what I want to focus on is one in particular. Ordnance Sergeant Leopold Hagee. He was an immigrant, joined the U.S. Army, and ended up here of all places. And he lived here alone for a majority of his time. He was here from 1887 until his death in 1900. And from the stories I've read, the only reason they know he had died was that someone had noted that the flag hadn't been presented that day. And he was very much a man of routine. People knew what to expect, and he had a certain way of doing things. So, I know the part you really want. I know the thing you're here for. Let's take a tour, and I'll tell you some of the ghost stories that are here at Fort Knox in Prospect, Maine.
He doesn't read them as well
Visitors
as
to
Al
the fort
does,
have
though.
reported a variety of ghostly activity. Mysterious shadows they see out of the corner of their eyes. Voices coming from seemingly nowhere. footsteps sounding in empty rooms, and orbs throughout the tunnels. A number of paranormal groups have done overnight investigations, and some have found some peculiar things. Sometimes in pictures, sometimes with audio. There have only been a few reported deaths at the fort, so who might be haunting the place? One of the running theories that Sergeant Leopold Hagee may still be doing his rounds, protecting Fort Knox and making sure everything is still in good running order. Some people claim to have seen a specter in a Civil War era uniform, which would fit this military man. He passed away in the fort while still responsible for keeping watch. As the fort is right on the banks of the Penobscot River, there may be others who lost their lives in this area. The river is deeper and stronger than it looks. Fishing and boating accidents could have easily turned fatal. The amount of time it took to construct the fort could have also contributed to souls being trapped within the granite structure. According to Liza Gardner Walsh's book about the fort, there have been a lot of visitors who report seeing ghosts in the tunnels, finding orbs in their pictures once they get home, and hearing voices as they stroll along the property. Are there spirits and paranormal energy at Fort Knox? I suppose there is only one real way for you to find out.
So you might be wondering, so what's up with the fort now? Well, the state of Maine purchased it from the U.S. federal government in the 1920s. It was put under the Bureau of Parks and Management for quite some time. People really liked it. It was a hangout spot. People enjoyed coming up here to spend time or have picnics, or there's beautiful views from the Penobscot from here. But unfortunately, over time, the place fell into disrepair. And at one point, the roof was in such bad condition, it threatened to collapse the whole place. So what happened? Why is it still here despite all that? Well, in the 1990s, a group called the Friends of the Fort Knox was formed. And they started fundraising. And they got kids involved, community involved, all the people who love the fort were willing to pitch in. And they raised enough funds to repair the damage. And now, the fort's a great place to come visit for history.
Cool.
That's kind of cool that the community did that, but can you imagine something that huge and only one person manning this place for, what was it, like 12 years? I mean...
Like the night watchman for the mega mall.
Yeah, exactly. But, yeah, pretty amazing place, but...
Very cool. Very cool.
And it's neat that the community restored it like that, so...
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, here's a more fun one.
Ooh.
Although it's not fun for the wife. But...
Well, you know, someone's got to go to prison. Seguin Island Lighthouse. The Seguin Island Lighthouse, built in 1857, isn't ancient by New England standards, but it has kind of a reputation that makes visitors ask the real lighthouse question. Is it haunted? The keepers who give tours say the folklore comes out fast. The keeper allegedly driven mad by his wife's piano on repeat until he took an axe to the instrument. Oh my God. And then to her. Sailors who swear they still hear piano music drifting across the calm water. Excuse me, young girl buried on the island whose laughter and running footsteps are said to echo on the stairs. And a former keeper so particular that he supposedly repositions furniture after modern residents move it. There's a really cool movie out there called Cold Skin involving a lighthouse. You should watch it.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, cold skin. Then come the moments. The current caretakers won't overclaim. They describe being locked in the basement despite a hook and eyelatch and having heard female voice clearly call, "Would you like me to play piano, man?" I'm sorry. Hello?
Exactly.
Hello? Twice. Only to rush outside and find the yard empty. Damn it. They offer mundane possibilities. Draft doors, seagulls. But they also end with a line that keeps the island's mystery nicely fed. The point isn't whether you believe in ghosts, it's whether ghosts believe in you. And for the record, the site says it is not open for ghost hunting.
I think her continuing to play the piano in the afterlife is a better punishment than the witch with John Burke or Buck.
Oh,
or whatever.
I would do it. There are plenty of people, but I would
Just keep playing.
I would haunt them. I just keep playing like the hokey pokey or the chicken dance. Or something. Can you imagine being haunted consistently by
driving? Oh, anyway, that was pretty awful.
Yeah, that was cute. That was a cute story. I like that one. That was cute. The haunted Flewetting House. Suzanne Reynolds didn't hedge her bets in Tales of the Aroostook from 1940.
I had to throw one in for you, Al.
Well, fortunately, I spent considerable amount of time living in New England, so I know a lot of these places.
Oh, okay.
The old Flewetting House was haunted, no doubt about it. And she backed it with an interview from a 90-year-old pipe-smoking storyteller named Aunt Betsy Walters. Betsy said she and her husband, Walter Walters, really, moved into a vacant farmhouse near Aroostook River, somewhere between Fort Fairfield and Limestone, and the place immediately started acting like it had opinions. Quilts were yanked off beds at night, the door bars slid open on their own, footsteps marched upstairs as if the second floor had a tenant who didn't believe in leases. Finally, Betsy grabbed a candle and went up to confront whatever was stomping around. She made it to the top step, and then reality blinked. She said the rest of the house vanished, and the candle held out in front of her gave no light at all. After that, locals avoided the place. Time finished the job. A tree fell and caved it in, and another, struck by lightning, burned, leaving only ashes and a stump where the house and its trees have been. Wow.
That website had a lot of these really fun, like somebody went out and just interviewed the old timers for their stories.
Really?
It's pretty fun.
Walter Walters.
Yep. I don't know if I had met a Walter Walters, but I've met people like that with like the double names.
Two first names, double first names. Well, yeah.
Never trust anyone with two first names.
Exactly.
Anyway, that's the stretch. That's this stretch of the Maine Paranormal Highway where history leaves fingerprints, folklore ignores eviction notices, and even the gravestones occasionally need traffic control. Join us next time when the road gets stranger, the stories get weirder, and the only real question is whether anything decided to follow you home.
Oh, that's great.
So what'd you think of Maine, Bove?
You know what? I want to go to Maine.
It's pretty.
It seems so pretty and so lush.
It is beautiful up there. I lived in Maine. I lived in Vermont. It's cold all the time.
Yeah.
And windy, if these videos say anything.
Yeah,
There's wind in all of them.
I rented a hunting lodge once in Vermont. It was on the top of a mountain outside of this little town called Putney. And I got there in, I think, probably November or December. The house is a mile up a dirt road, which was covered in snow, and I'm driving a 26-foot U-Haul. The U-Haul stayed down at the bottom of the hill for days. Finally, I found a neighbor that was about 10 miles from me to that. The car made it up. A 1978 Olds Delta 88 made it up that hill, but the truck wouldn't. And he came by with a tractor and pulled it up. Make a long story short, I guess maybe about March, April, something like that. I stepped out the front door, walked 3 feet, and sank. And it was like, okay, this is new. I had been walking out the front door, out to the car all this time. Well, it turns out that this house not only had a wraparound porch, did not know this, but it had 6 steps going down to the driveway. That's how much freaking snow was there.
Oh man!
Wow!
And by the time June rolled around, I mean, it was obvious this is a nice place, and it had that wraparound porch, and then there was a door that went under the house, and I wish I would have known that because that's where all the freaking firewood was. We ran out of firewood, and a snowstorm came through, and I literally burned almost every stick of furniture in that house to stay warm.
Oh my God!
Yeah, and then I went up to the attic, and I got shit out of the attic and burnt that. Then I burnt a ladder to the attic.
Holy smokes!
Oh my God!
How long was this? I mean, how long were you barricaded in from that storm then?
About 6 weeks. And finally, someone on a snow machine came by with a little sled with about a quarter of a cord of firewood. Said, we didn't even know we were
geez.
staying up here. I'm like, well, appreciate the wood. Think
Yeah.
maybe you can give me a ride to town so I can get some furniture.
Oh, did you have food stocked up? Did you have enough food? Obviously,
Yeah.
you're
Oh,
still alive.
We had plenty of food. The food wasn't the problem. We had so much. When we got there, it was stocked because the real estate guy who rented to us said that you may have an extended period of time where you can't get out, especially down that road. I'm literally on top of a mountain. Name of the
Right.
place was Sunwood Hill, and so yeah, there was. Plus, we brought food with us.
So then in the spring, was there like a ton of mud? I mean, what was the road like going back down the hill? That's what we used to deal with in Wisconsin. It was like all this snow, and then the mud was so bad you couldn't get up or down anything.
Yeah,
from the
there's
mud.
Really, there's only two seasons up there: winter and mud. That's it. And my job, I worked up there. I worked at Mount Snow. I was a ski patrol, keeping the wise asses off the bunny trails because they would scare the, people trying to learn how to ski. And here comes some teenager at 60 miles an hour, so I had to go chase them down. But yeah, I mean, it was a great experience. I mean, in retrospect, New England is beautiful. Maine was beautiful.
Wow.
I went over to Keene, New Hampshire for a while, but it's just too cold for me. I just can't deal with. I just can't deal with cold weather like that.
I don't like the dark when those northern states. It just gets dark so early in the winter.
But you know what though? You can see every star in the sky.
That's true, but it still depresses me. I don't like all that dark.
Down the end of my driveway, which is about 200 feet long, there was an open area. So, if you had a moving truck or if you had a logging truck, there's enough room to turn it around. And there was nothing.
Okay.
So we go out in the middle of that and just look up, put some lawn chairs down and just look up because the sky was so unbelievably beautiful. But then about 20 minutes later, we were freezing our asses off, so we went back in.
So you didn't see any UFOs going past?
No. The only thing we saw on occasion was the occasional mountain lion. They weren't interested in us, and bears, stuff like that. We stayed in. We did not venture out into the forest. I'm a city boy. That's
Well, it sounds like you've had some good country experience, though, too.
Yeah,
All right. So, are you guys game for next week, or?
Yes. Where are we next week? Oh, part 2 of Maine.
Part 2 of Maine.
Okay.
They've got some good cryptids up there, too.
Oh, yeah. Sure they do.
I'm
Why
waiting
wouldn't they?
for Massachusetts.
Yeah. But Maine used to be part of Massachusetts. I don't remember what year it was that it was split.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Vermont and New Hampshire were also at one point, were one state.
Mm-hmm. I didn't know that either.
Yeah, look at the map. There's a clean line right down the middle between the two. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, Bove, I hope you feel better. Get some sleep.
I'm gonna go under the covers. I mean, I've got this blanket wrapped around me, and I am still cold.
Yeah,
So,
there's something going around the mountain, so get better. Al, don't hurt yourself fixing stuff tomorrow.
I will try.
Yeah, I'll take it easy.
Exactly. Well, it was good to see you guys, and thank you for the folks who popped in during the show live, and
yes,
for those who come afterwards. We don't know who you are, but thank you for joining us.
Up.
Exactly. All right, you guys. Well, enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Yes, you too.
Thank you. Good to see you both. All right.
Bye-bye.
Peace out.
Thanks so much for joining us. We love hearing your stories, so tell your friends so they can join the party. For show notes and our forum of high strangeness, visit cosmicfold.com. Remember, Cosmic Fold airs live on Wednesday and Saturday nights, so be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell to know when we're on air. Thanks again and have a great evening.